Welcome to the Professionals of the Inland Empire show with your host, John Tulac.
Welcome to Professionals of the Inland Empire, which we affectionately call PI. I'm John Tulac, international business attorney located in Claremont, California, and this is my way of showcasing some of the top talent in the Inland Empire. These are professionals who live and work in the Inland Empire and handle the things that you and your small, medium, even large-sized business need in terms of being able to do what you do as well as you can possibly do it. It takes a team, of course, of professionals behind every successful company. So today I'm happy to have with us Homa Shainer and Michael Couper. Now, they are in two different areas. Homa is really involved in cyber tech and cybersecurity and the software necessary that your IT systems move smoothly. And Michael Couper knows how to use all that stuff really, really well in terms of being a really outstanding digital marketer. So they have some things in common and some things that are different, but it should be a really interesting half hour as we talk with Homa and Michael about what they do and how they do it. So welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Sit back, help yourself to a slice of pie. Here we go. Homa, let's start with you. Tell us who you are, what you do, and how you do it.
Hi, John. Thank you so much for having me here on Pi. I've heard a lot of great things about the podcast and really happy to be a part of it now. My name's Homa Shainer, and I'm with Bridgepoint Technologies. I'm an IT strategist. And ultimately, what that means, we help businesses find the right solution providers to help them meet their goals. How I got here, so I've been doing this for a few years. Prior to that, I worked on the provider side. So I was directly working for a cloud organization, then followed by a network company, and last but not least, a cybersecurity company. And what I learned in those different roles were companies have a lot of different challenges. And representing one provider is not always going to meet those requirements that they need to ultimately meet those challenges. So what I've been able to do now at Bridgepoint is be able to partner with over 300 providers. And depending on what the clients are looking for, my job as a trusted advisor is to bring them that right provider to meet their needs. So it allows me to be much more agnostic and to go deep and wide for my clients and to really bring them the right fit. I'm located here in the Inland Empire, but Bridgepoint Technologies is headquartered in San Mateo, and we've been around for over 23 years.
So IT is really the nerve center of any company today, isn't it? We can't get along without all of our software and our hardware and having the knowledge to know what to do with it and then have the sense to call somebody to fix it when it inevitably goes wrong, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, nowadays, every single business needs internet, first and foremost, to be able to access their email and communicate with their clients as well as their internal employees. And everybody, at a very basic level is leveraging internet and email and a phone system. And then beyond that, most organizations have to have tools in place to protect themselves from cybersecurity, cyber threats, ways to be able to access their applications, ways to be able to have employees that might be working remote, be able to access those applications to be the most productive and be the most efficient. I don't really know many businesses that can survive without technology these days.
When I started the practice of law, there were senior partners in big law firms that didn't even know how to use a photocopy machine. And then they thought it was beneath them. That was for staff to do. And the whiz-bang tech was a dictation device, where today, now we just take for granted having it right at our beck and call, including our smartphones in our pockets and our purses and what have you. In 300 providers, Homa, how do you keep up with everything that evolves so quickly in this space?
So that's a great question. So not only do I help my customers figure out what kind of technology they need, but I have a lot of support here at Bridgepoint, and that's really what sets us apart. So we have a team of engineers that specialize in different fields. So depending on what the client's looking for, we bring in the team of experts to really dig in and figure out what the right fit is for that client, understand what their requirements are, understand what their team looks like today, and figure out what might be that right fit. Once we narrow it down to a couple options is when we start bringing the providers to the table. And our job is really to manage that whole experience and make sure the providers respect the client's time. They know what they need, and ultimately they deliver the right solution based on the information that we provide them. So it is very much a team approach.
So you're actually providing a service to the client, as opposed to representing the interest of the provider. You're matching up the client's need with the right provider. Is that the way to look at it?
Yeah, I would say that's spot on. I think ultimately what clients are used to today are that, that direct sales rep that comes door to door or constantly calls them and they all have quotas to meet and a sales manager that's pushing them to close deals. And that's really what sets us apart. Our job is really to work for the client, make sure that they're getting the right fit, and then continue to stay in the picture long term. Most of our best clients not only come to us for one project, but they look at us as that trusted advisor as new projects arise.
Okay. So, Michael, let's turn our attention to you for a little bit. Tell us who you are, what you do, and how you do it. What makes you special?
Sure, thanks. So Michael Couper with CCS Interactive, the owner here, and we've been in business in the Inland Empire, Southern California for over 40 years. I came in as a programmer, a software developer, primarily helping build websites, and then had the opportunity to come in as a partner and now own the company. And since then, I built it into a full service digital marketing agency. So of course, we have our bread and butter. We build custom websites, and our mantra is that our mission is to make the client stand out. So we're building a level of website that we feel is sort of a cut above the rest. It's entirely custom, suited exactly to your needs, to your vision, to your brand. It's not a template. It's not cookie cutter. It's not something that looks like everybody else's website. It really makes you stand out. And then to support all of that, of course, a beautiful website and a functional website is nothing without traffic. So we do search engine optimization, social media content, everything from planning to actual execution. So we can help people that have internal teams, maybe they even have a CMO, a marketing officer, and then you just need help on the execution side, and we'll do all the way up through strategy and white gloves so that you can focus on doing what you do best, whatever your business is, and you don't have to focus on that regular posting and all of that stuff that we know we need to do, but can be really challenging on the time side of things. And kind of similar to Home over at Bridgepoint, we noticed with a lot of our clients that there's a bit of a pain point where they have maybe 3 or 4 different vendors that are supporting different facets of their marketing. And it's very confusing to them, maybe, who am I supposed to reach out to about this thing or that thing? Like the logo isn't right over on my website. Who am I supposed to reach out to about that? And my social media doesn't look quite like my business card, and it doesn't match up my collateral that we're handing out when we're going to networking events and different things like that. So our idea is that we're that one-stop shop where we have an in-house team that has a great deal of expertise in every single thing that has to do with your online presence. And we're making sure that everything is streamlined, everything is consistent, it's on brand, it's on message, and you don't have to think about who to reach out to. You just call us and it gets taken care of. As
Well,
far as,
like
sorry.
no, sorry to interrupt, but that seems like a really good advantage to have to be able to do it all in one place.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of our colleagues, our peers in the industry that are really focused on one channel or another. And for a long time, I thought maybe we're doing something wrong. Are we spreading ourselves too thin here? But yeah, to your point, I think there's an advantage to bringing together all of the spokes and making sure that everything is really tight and really consistent. So.
Okay, so I interrupted. Go on with what you were thinking of saying before I broke in.
Sure. Yeah. I was just, as far as my background and how I kind of came into it, it was somewhat accidental, if I'm being honest. I have a background in the arts, and that was kind of what I had imagined for myself as a career path. I even did all my degree work there. But I had taken some computer classes when I was in middle school and started building websites back when websites were just becoming a thing. And so it kind of was a side hustle for a long time. I would need to build websites for various projects I was working on. And then an opportunity came up to join the company that I now own as, sort of supporting their website building side. And it just kind of turned into the main thing. So it's just kind of funny how something that I expected to be the backup plan is now turned into the bread and butter.
You're a musician, if I recall correctly, right?
That's right.
What do you, I know, still play?
So my main instrument is saxophone, and bizarrely classical. I do play jazz, in gigging context and whatnot, but my love is really to play in front of orchestras as a soloist. But I also play all of the woodwinds as well. So I did a lot of work with musical theater where you're in what's called a pit orchestra, and you're playing for 30 seconds one instrument, put that down, pick up another instrument, you're playing something else, 3 or 4 instruments throughout a show. A lot of fun.
I would imagine that that is a bit of a challenge,
It is.
to be able
Yeah.
to, oh yeah, I got to pick up this one right now.
Yeah. And it's in a different key, and you got to totally change mindsets, and the way your muscles and your mouth work is totally different. But again, I feel like it kind of ties into what I'm doing now, right? We're bringing all these pieces together and switching gears, and it's right there in line.
So you have to keep up a lot as well. I would think not only with the technology that you're using to build websites and to make them sing, but then to promote them because the different places where you would give a client exposure, like Google and so on, or YouTube are constantly changing the algorithms and the rules and everything out. And so something that's really working well today doesn't work so well a week from now. So how do you constantly evolve it to the changing circumstances?
So thankfully, I have a team where we're all just really nerdy about this stuff, and we're just researching constantly and trying a lot of things. So we're doing a lot of A/B testing. We'll try this technique and that technique at the same time, see which does better. But of course, all of these platforms know that we're trying to game the system a bit. And so every time we figure out something out and kind of get a little hack, we're never doing anything nefarious, but the point is we're trying to exploit the opportunities, right? And they pick up on that, and then they're like, oh, well, we want to make more money because we want to charge you for ads. So we're gonna demote your ability to do this one thing, and you just kind of got to keep up with it. So it's really just a cycle of research, and thankfully everybody on the team is just so interested in it that they would be researching this anyway, even if they didn't have to, on behalf of our clients. And we actually kind of have fun figuring out new and creative ways to get around some of the limitations that are sometimes put in our way.
So do you do your own coding then for how you do some of what you provide in the way of deliverables, or is that something that it comes with software and other tools that you use?
We do quite a bit of our own programming, for better or worse. My main background is as a software developer, and that's really where I love spending all of my time. And in an early part of my career, I probably overemphasized trying to just build it myself. It's like, especially when you're a starving student, right? You're like, oh, I have to pay $50 a month for that. I'll just build it myself. And you can kind of get into that mold where you just always want to reinvent the wheel. So I'm trying to find a good balancing act of let's use products and services that are available that reduce our time to get done what's really critical and that are well supported, by other firms that have their own teams and whatnot. But then also sometimes something that's out of the box just doesn't work the way you need it to. And we've just got to go and build something our own. And we do have some internal products that we use that we feel have leveled up some of the tools that might be available to a lot of other agencies that enable us to deliver something that is unique and maybe more user friendly or more effective or what have you.
Okay. So this gets me into an area which is just the hottest thing on the planet, apparently, other than war zones. And this is probably its own war zone in some ways, is artificial intelligence and how that's changing so many things, including helping in coding and in doing basic research or even doing much more in-depth kind of planning and brainstorming and then research. So I'm assuming you're using that in some way. Michael, let's go with you on that first, and then we'll go to Homa on, what she's seeing.
Absolutely. Yes, I use it extensively, although I'll say it took a while to find my footing where it was genuinely useful. Like so many, when it first made its splash, I was all in and let's play with this, and got disappointed pretty quickly. It really took finding what are the places in my processes where this is really going to be of benefit. And once I found that, it's been incredible what it's done for me. So you may have heard of something called vibe coding. That's kind of the new way. And in a lot of ways, it's decimating the developer industry because AI is able to do generally quite a bit more than what a computer science graduate can do coming fresh out of their degree in terms of skill level. And it's been challenging, I think, for a lot of people in that industry. And, salaries have fallen and opportunities have fallen, and there have been major layoffs, and it's been kind of a major downside. But the flip side of that is that if you're a really experienced coder, it can be a major boon to your productivity. And I say it that way because it's really not perfect. It really can't, despite the hype and some of the advertising that you might have seen, build a product from start to finish perfectly flawlessly that you can just take to market with a few words in a prompt. But what it does do is take a lot of the things that might have taken hours of keyboard time to iterate through and struggle through and research, and it can rapidly iterate. So if you're paired with some good skill and experience, it can increase your productivity tenfold. I mean, that might even be an underestimate of how much more I can do now than I could 3 years ago, having found not just the right way to use AI, but even just the right tools. There's a particular product I use called Cursor, which I think is one of the fastest growing startups right now, built on all the Anthropic models, that is just phenomenal for people who are in the developer space. And it also does really cool things like enable me to work in languages that I might not have a lot of experience or even any experience at all in, and I can still rapidly prototype now. So whereas 2, 3 years ago, I was writing a lot of code myself, which I did very much enjoy doing. Now I'm a full-on vibe coder. I hardly ever write any of my own until once in a while AI will really get stuck on something and it's just messing up, and I'm actually literally being mean to it and saying, man, why can't you get this right? That kind of thing, you know. And that's the point at which I'll be like, fine, I'll just do it myself. But it's just totally changed the way we operate, certainly on a software development side of things. I think it'll be positive once people kind of get their footing, because it's not just about eliminating developer jobs, it's now making all developers more productive, and all people who have ideas who aren't developers able to iterate and ideate and build something really meaningful in a lot less time than they could before.
Wow, that's a lot to digest. So Homa, are you doing any coding in your spare time using AI, or
You
how
know,
are you using AI in what you do?
I am not doing coding, but as Michael's speaking, I'm talking about coding and leveraging AI and how much quicker it's allowing him to put out data or software. It just reminds me as to what the hackers are able to do today. AI is a great thing, but it can also be a bad thing. So I saw something earlier today stating that AI is like a knife. You can use a knife to cut up a salad, but you can also use a knife to kill somebody. And that is a bad analogy, but it's really what you're able to do here with AI. So Michael's using it to be more productive, but these hackers are also able to use these same tools to now be able to take advantage of employees who maybe don't have the right measures in place to protect themselves, or they leverage generative AI to be able to put a video out that sounds like it's coming straight from the CEO asking for money to be wired to them. And these, say the accounts payable teams listening to it, it sounds just like the CEO, and it came from a phone number that mimics the CEO's phone number, and now they're sending out that money. So as good as AI is for productivity, it also is good for, it's accelerating these hackers and allowing them to do much more. There's over $10.5 trillion in cybercrime right now, and that's supposed to continue to increase. So although we can use AI to be more productive in organizations, especially around, say, customer experience and customer support, and maybe save some money around that, at the same time, the smarter AI gets, the smarter these threat actors get, and then the smarter our cybersecurity tools need to get. So ultimately, you have AI fighting AI, and that's going to be the world that we're going to be living in. That we're already living in that world. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here in the next couple of years.
So we've got both the good, the bad, and some seriously ugly here in terms of what we're facing with AI in a variety of contexts. So clearly, part of what you're doing, Home, I would imagine, is helping the client keep up with what they absolutely have to have, if for no other reason, protective purposes, let alone some positive use that can be put to this with, whether you have a lick of coding ability or not, you don't necessarily need that to use AI. So keeping up, again, it goes to someone like you who's an expert who can then advise, look, you need at least the following things in the context of what you, the client, are doing, right?
Yeah, you need a lot of different tools today, and then you also need them all to be able to work together and coexist. And that's why, especially around cybersecurity, unless a company has a full 24/7 security operations center, we're usually recommending that these clients go to an MSSP, which is a managed security service provider that can go ahead and help them and stare at the monitors 24/7 and be able to get in the tools if they notice a threat actors in the environment and to be able to immediately stop that bleeding. It's gotten much more advanced than what the average employee can do today. And you do need to have many people on staff to be able to even protect yourself to that level. So we're consistently recommending third-party providers for that just have at least the right tools in place. It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It still may happen, but the amount of damage that it's going to do is going to be a lot less leveraging a third-party provider.
Wow. So Michael, back to your comment about the graduates in computer science. I mean, is this their job of the future? Is monitoring against the bad guys' attacks as opposed to helping you write new programs in code because AI can do the coding better than they can?
I think that's definitely an element. But I do think there'll always be a place for them. I think the biggest concern for the entry level developers is just getting to that next step. But that next step is maybe even more critical now than it was before. And I've seen, social media posts sort of making light of these very senior developers that they're quitting because now their job is to debug terrible AI code. And maybe I oversold it a little bit. There are a lot of problems with AI generated code, and there are a lot of frustrating days. You could really have to shift your mindset. But yeah, I do think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity for people that are leaving these kinds of degree programs, if for no other reason than because they're the ones building the next generation of AI tools. They're the integrators. We're very much in an age of integration. The frontier models, these are your ChatGPT and Anthropic and all of these different Gemini and whatnot, the ones that are on the bleeding edge and whatever the newest version, that's the frontier model. They're getting better, but they're not getting better as fast as they were, again, months ago. But what we are experiencing now is an explosion in usability and usefulness as people are figuring out ways to take models that are very well suited to particular tasks and chaining them together to build larger products. And so I think we're very much at the beginning of this. And so people that have fluency in that and have aptitude and interest in that, there's tremendous amount of opportunity for them. And then, a lot of these AI kinds of tools are also being used in a protective way. So, bot attacks, for example, on websites, these are being mitigated by AI tools as well. So AI is being used to attack and AI is being used to defend. And every time some new method comes along, there's going to need to be a whole team of people, a whole ecosystem of people behind it to figure out how to mitigate and resist and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of opportunity. I'll pivot since I've given a very optimistic point of view maybe on AI. I think the flip side of it that kind of relates to my industry is that you also have what you might call AI generated slop, right? And a lot of us are maybe not so enthusiastic. Frankly, I know I'm not. I don't want to waste my time looking at AI generated, even if it's not nefarious, even if it's just silly. I crave that human connection. And I think COVID kind of reminded us all how important that human connection actually is. And I want to see the work of real artists. I don't want to see something that's been regurgitated by a model trained on stolen artist data. So I feel like at the same time, it's created an opportunity for content creators like my firm to be able to distinguish themselves, because sure, we use AI as part of our processes, and we may use AI to help generate some social media captions or take a really long white paper and turn it into a shorter LinkedIn article or something along those lines. But we always have that final human touch, that softness, that voice, that targeting, that intent that is entirely human driven and sets it above the people who are genuinely just creating their entire social media calendars from ChatGPT.
That's really interesting. I mean, I think it was The Economist that had the word of the year was slop, which was all this AI generated content, which is all generic. And something like 50–60% of what's on social media now put out as content is AI generated with little or no human editing. So it all generically looks, acts, and feels the same. And Homa, you've got all these providers that have all these tools that can help a company and its people be more productive. And yet AI at the same time, if we don't use it correctly, is substituting productivity of human beings or perhaps taking it away, and you've got to repurpose that talent somewhere else. I mean, finding a balance, I think, is going to be awfully hard if we're going to keep that creative sense that Michael's talking about. So how do you help your clients understand, here's something that you can use, but here's something you're going to need a specialist to use? Because we literally can't learn it all and do it all.
Yeah, great question. So I think most of our customers today, they somewhat understand the AI space, but a lot of them are not sure how they can leverage it in their own business to make them more productive. So where we're seeing businesses use it and where it is really helpful is around customer experience and improving customer support. So as customers reach out to help desk, whether it's through a chat feature or dialing a phone number, AI has actually made that AI virtual assistant much smarter and has allowed them to reply and make customers actually even feel like they're speaking to the right person. I know we've all dealt with where are trying to get to the operator and you consistently press zero because you're not getting to who you need. But now with simple voice commands or text, you're actually getting much further than you used to be able to get, or sometimes even further than actually speaking to a human being. So what our customers have been able to do, for example, banks that we work with, they're able to now take a few steps, go a few steps further than they were able to do before, whether it's checking an account balance or, these are smaller regional banks that may not have been as technical. And, we're not talking about like the Wells Fargos of the world or the US banks, but smaller regional banks that don't have a ton of money for technology. And they've been able to add solutions on top of their chat features to allow them to quickly respond to their clients and give them some basic answers and ultimately help them get to that right person once it has narrowed down what they're looking for. It's also allowed larger companies to be able to set up appointments through just chatting or through voice, and also can figure out maybe where customers are voicing some frustration. So they're able to use a lot of it for training purposes. So if they see that a customer is constantly, huffing and puffing after, the third prompt, maybe they're able to use that data to train their employees within their customer support team to let's try to figure out how we can resolve this issue much quicker and keep our clients happier for longer. So once they start using these tools in that type of manner, they're able to be much more effective, more productive, and ultimately bring the company in more revenue and retain their customers. So that is definitely a positive feature that we've seen within the AI space and customer service.
I've heard, and maybe this isn't true, but that some of these customer bots that can be very frustrated, and then you start typing in cuss words, it will then disconnect you as opposed to sending you to a human operator. So they've at least learned some aspects of the human frustration.
Yeah, sometimes they're supposed to put somebody on right away, but it's really, so just like ChatGPT, right? The data you feed it, the better it's going to be. So if maybe that organization notices that frustration, that would ultimately mean we're going to put somebody on right away, maybe a supervisor, or maybe that organization realizes, okay, this is not the type of customer we want to talk to. Let's disconnect and have them call back again in 5 minutes. And when they call back, let's go ahead and pick that up. So it's really what you feed into it is going to make that AI bot be more effective, more productive for the organization, or ultimately be a point of frustration.
Right. And Michael, I'd heard that if you're doing your interactive with your AI engine of choice, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or what have you, that it's better to be polite with it, not because of negative consequences with you necessarily, but for training purposes. If these large language models get the idea that human beings prefer civility, maybe it would help civility across the board in terms of outputs that we get from the experience. Is there something to that?
I think there is, but there is some evidence that might even be the opposite. I remember reading recently that when you're mean to these things, they give you a better result. And so I didn't really dive super, super deep into the data to see for sure. I definitely know when I got started, and I think probably a lot of us were this way, we weren't really 100% convinced they weren't alive. Like we kind of knew they weren't, but we're like, I guess I should be nice to you because you might be my overlord one day. I think the dust has kind of settled on that. I think we know that's not true. maybe won't ever be true. That's certainly not a foregone conclusion. But I've definitely gravitated towards politeness. I even use please and those kinds of things. But I will push back pretty strongly when it starts to get really off course. And I mean, it's anecdotal. I don't suppose it's really grounded. But it seems like it can affect things when you do change your tone, when you do express that frustration, that can shift, especially because they have a tendency to go down rabbit holes. Their ability to digest context is impressive, but also very particular and limited. And especially as a conversation gets very, very long, it can be very easy for them to either get off track or hyper focused on something. And sometimes expressing that frustration or saying, no, you don't understand what I mean. This is what I'm talking about, can kind of help kick them. And it's kind of fun when you see, the reasoning based models, you're seeing their sort of interspersal thinking output. And you can even say, oh, the user is frustrated. I might be doing this, blah, 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 blah. And they're kind of doing this thing where they're thinking through. So I see a benefit to a full range of human emotion, because generally the data that these things are trained on runs the full gamut of human emotion, including literature and all of these different kinds of things. So I often tell people when I coach them on how to use it, especially in the prompting context, communicate with them the way you would communicate with a human being, because it's trained on human communication. Sure, that might include your very dry technical manuals and your API documentation and very dry kind of stuff. But it also is going to include social media posts and, as I mentioned, literature and all that kind of stuff, multimodal stuff now, video content and all kinds of things. So the full completeness of understanding requires you to draw from your full bag of tricks the way you would if you were communicating with a human counterpart.
Yeah, and I've learned that you can train it to avoid some rabbit holes and avoid being overly eager to please by giving it some direction to say, this is what I want, this is how I want it, and if you think I'm off track, I want you to push back, and I think you're off track, I'm going to push back on you. And you can tell it to keep it in the long-term memory across different prompts, which I think is tremendous. And obviously we are going to have to train people at a younger and younger age about how to do your prompts so that you can get a proper experience out of AI. And good grief, Homa and Michael, this is just amazing how the time flies by. We could talk about this for a lot longer. I'm absolutely in awe of the creativity and the technical side of the things that you do and how you have to keep up to do it. It's just, that's a lot of work, I know. And ladies and gentlemen who are listening in, this is what you get when you use a good professional. You get all that expertise adapted with the recommendations that you need for your particular business. So again, Homa and Michael, thanks for being guests on Professional of the Inland Empire. We're going to say so long for now.
Thanks for watching or listening to, depending on the case, the Professionals of the Inland Empire show with your host, John W. Tulac. If you have a suggestion for a guest, email him at jwtulac, that's JWTULAC @gmail.com. jwtulac @gmail.com.